GT Countdown. The top 10 milestones in gaming.
We've come a long way since the advent of joysticks and D-pads. Every 4 or 5 years, our holiest of hobbies meets another benchmark that reminds the other entertainment mediums that video games are what truly push the envelope. A milestone changes everything. Suddenly, the old is gone and the new sets the precedent to follow. We pondered lots of industry earthquakes, from force feedback to the disastrous crash of 1983, but the following 10 landmarks refuse to be ignored. Video games come and go, but these milestones are eternal.
Number 10. Mature game.
Before headshots, chainsaw duels, and sex-fueled parties, video games centered around simple, rated G concepts. Eat the pellets, whack a barrel, you get the idea. Like a prepubescent teen transitioning into adulthood, the game industry drastically shifted in the 90s to feature adult-themed situations. The movement might have struck a chord with anguished politicians and mothers, but it helped expand the market beyond kids and tweens. With the ESRB established in 1994, little Johnny could no longer purchase games with disembowelment. Yet the most successful games in the industry brandish the mature-rated tag. Without games like Mortal Kombat and Doom, where would we be?
Number 9. Nintendo DS and Nintendo Wii.
Nintendo completely changed the game with its DS handheld and Wii console. Making buttons and analog sticks yesterday's news, these new ways to interact with electronic entertainment have broadened the scope of consumers far more than anyone predicted. Suddenly it's cool for mom and dad to get in on the fun, or for 20 and 30-somethings to have video game-themed parties. And it was all thanks to Nintendo's accessible control styles that made playing games simple and easy to enjoy. If you need any further proof of what monumental moments the release of the DS and Wii were, look no further than Microsoft's Kinect and PlayStation Move. Once again, Nintendo saw the future and delivered it first.
Number 8. Analog stick.
Looking back, Space World 1995 will be remembered for a few notable milestones: the Nintendo 64, Ocarina of Time, and surely Super Mario 64. But the most lasting legacy to come out of that event wasn't a game or console, but a thing. It's hard to imagine where gaming would be without the analog stick, nor could we imagine a console these days without one. Mario's first fledgling tiptoes, footsteps, and full-on jaunts in 3D were only possible with the N64 controller's analog stick. Challenging developers to think in 360 directions instead of just 8, once again the rest of the industry took Nintendo's idea and ran with it. Crucial to the growth of all 3D gaming, the analog stick is an indispensable part of video game history, earning it the number 8 spot on our countdown.
Number 7. Xbox Live.
Online gaming is one thing, but creating an online community where players could interact, express, purchase, watch, listen, and just about any other verb you can think of was truly groundbreaking. It was no longer good enough to have a matchmaking service with dedicated servers. We needed friends lists and achievements. We needed video chat. We needed a party system. We needed avatars. And we didn't know we needed these things until Xbox Live told us we did. As the service evolved from its simple roots, it only became all the more essential to a healthy game-playing life. And as time wore on, it only became more apparent that Microsoft's competitors needed to jump into the fray or be left behind. Xbox Live changed how we would play video games, both by ourselves and with others, for the rest of our lives.
Number 6. Nintendo Game Boy.
In the late 1970s, Mattel's first handheld games used rows of LEDs to represent race cars, enemy projectiles, or athletes. The 80s were dominated by LCD screens, with wristwatch games and handhelds from Nintendo and Tiger. While the Microvision attempted to introduce interchangeable cartridges in 1979, it was Nintendo's Game Boy that truly made handheld gaming something worth pursuing. With a wide range of swappable games, a dot matrix display, and a lengthy battery life, it outlasted one competitor after another. With the inclusion of Tetris, it took off with adults as well, paving the way for the broader market that embraced the DS, PSP, and iPhone today.
Number 5. Online gameplay.
One of the biggest paradigm shifts of the last decade has been the online game's rise to prominence. Sure, back in the days of Maze Wars, playing games with other people through a computer network was archaic and a little more than a novelty, something that would never take given the scarcity of the required infrastructure. But today, the most enduring, addictive games we play are built around an online network, from World of Warcraft to Modern Warfare 2. Remarkably, it still feels like we've barely crossed the threshold, but online gaming has already allowed us to bridge the gap of thousands of miles and test our mettle against the best. The social aspect can also not be overlooked, with some games being nothing more than glorified chat rooms.
Number 4. Optical media.
Quality and quantity in gaming took a huge step up with the advent of optical media.
You still don't have a Sega CD? What are you waiting for, Nintendo to make one?
Cartridges basically topped out with the huge and expensive carts of the Nintendo 64, and the true death knell for cartridges sounded with the release of Sony's PlayStation. Its CD-ROM-based games had plenty of space for FMV cutscenes and huge soundtracks, with plenty of space left over. It basically gave players a glimpse of what consoles would be producing in real time in the future. It was a huge paradigm shift, and optical media would have finished much higher on this list if it didn't look like digital distribution was the way of the future. The Blu-ray is the current king of digital data, and even if the format eventually becomes obsolete, the impact of optical media cannot be overstated.
If you're not playing on a 3DO system, what are you playing with?
Number 3. 3D.
The industry originally held to only one perspective, and its earliest efforts at breaking down this wall, like Wolfenstein, Star Fox, and Virtua Racing, only masked the immense challenge of creating a virtual world in 3 dimensions. Then came the PlayStation and the Saturn, and with them Battle Arena Toshinden, Warhawk, Jumping Flash, Crash Bandicoot, and Tomb Raider. Our eyes were open to the future and we pondered the possibilities. Then, Nintendo gave us Super Mario 64, a game that would show us how we'd navigate the 3D space for the foreseeable future. In 2 years, the groundwork for the next 2 decades was written. We're still riding the wake of the 3D revolution.
Number 2. Coin-op.
We've been paying for virtual amusement since the 1920s, but it wasn't until 1971 when Galaxy Game by Stanford alums Bill Pitts and Hugh Tuck and Computer Space from Pong parent Nolan Bushnell that gaming became a bona fide business. By building their arcade cabinets by hand and working deals with local pubs, they became the pioneers of monetizing video games. Tin boxes with plastic knobs and cathode rays became Space Invaders, Pac-Man, and Donkey Kong. That decade's arcade boom was the big bang that built this industry. The word arcade took on a whole new meaning. The market would become dangerously close to falling off a cliff due to excessive optimism, but the epic dawn of electronic entertainment had come.
Number 1. Home console.
Electricity is the primordial goo of all things games, arcades their eternal incubator, and the home console is the communion, the crucible, the crux between man and electrical merriment. Melodrama aside, home consoles turned games from quarter munchers into big money purchases with long adventures that could be played from the comfort of your couch, and they brought us variety with interchangeable cartridges. We've couched these sub-milestones within home consoles, along with the PC. Game experience evolved when they weren't out to drain your wallet bit by bit. Cartridges, as opposed to standalone Pong machines, offered constant variation, excitement, and are always fun to trade with friends. When you could bring games into your house, they were no longer a destination nor a distraction. They were part of the family.
Here's Pac-Man on ColecoVision. But here's Pac-Man for the Atari 5200 Super System.
Now you're talking.
Reach, 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 for it goes.